Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
You know, Duke, I'm so excited about the 56th annual CAC reunion this year, which we're having at the Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Vegas. It was renovated a couple of years ago. They put about $100 million into it. The hotel has been renovated as well in the last couple of years. And we're moving from the Gold Coast Hotel and Casino to the downtown area on Fremont Street. And it's sure to be a great time. It's September 26th through the 28th. We do have some tickets left. One reunion ticket is $150. And that encompasses the entire reunion, from 2 wonderful meals to all the seminars. We have so many things going on. You'd have to go to our website at caulifloweralleyclub.org to check everything out. I hope that your listeners will consider becoming a member of the CAC, because every dollar that we make goes to helping wrestlers, and not just wrestlers, people that made a full-time, doesn't matter, but people that made a full-time living in the wrestling industry for 3 years or longer. We actually help everyone that, falls on a bad time. We don't help people with drug situations or alcohol situations, but other than that, we're right there. We've saved people's houses, paid medical bills, got people cancer treatments. The Cauliflower Alley Club has done so many wonderful things, and it's because of its members. It's because of people like you, Duke, where Duke Loves Rasslin has, advertised the CAC for many years and promoted the CAC, because it's a group effort. It's everybody helping everybody, because we all love wrestling.
In.
Look at what we have here, folks!
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke Loves Rasslin.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Folks, we had an exciting week of pro wrestling when Summerslam and Ric Flair's last match happened in the same weekend. It was crazy. And rather than sit here and run my mouth by myself, I figured, let me get my cousin from Puerto Rico to come on the show, break it down for me, let me know his perspective, because he's a good dude. He knows what he's talking about. So, Jay, welcome back to Duke Loves Rasslin. How are you, brother?
I'm good. And you're Doug. What's going on, everybody?
Man, I'm doing great. The last time you were on here with the whole family there, we were talking about food. We were talking about your wonderful collection of wrestling memorabilia. It was such a good time. People really enjoyed that. How's the collection going since the last time you were on the show? Have you added any pieces since June?
Yes, plenty more. Just yesterday, the wife came in with, I believe, 7 figures from hyperspace. So it was their birthday yesterday. So they had a little show, going on, and some giveaways. And she came back with 7 figures just yesterday.
7 figures. So, I got to ask you, Jay, what were the figures?
Well, we got the Elite Cactus Jack ECW from ringside. We got the Road Warriors from 1997. Still in the package from WWF. We got the WrestleMania edition from the Tron Ready, The Rock from 1999. Jack Pacific. So we got some good goods. We got a Sting, Red NWO. What else we got? Yeah. We got Rikishi. I didn't have a Rikishi for my Samoan Dynasty wall, so finally got a Rikishi. So pretty hype.
That is a hell of a haul there. That's good stuff there, bro. We need a store like that here in Boston, man. We don't have anything like that place. So I'm gonna have to make some calls here and see if we can get Hyperspace Boston. My goodness.
I know, right? Yes, definitely.
That's fun. So SummerSlam. let's talk about SummerSlam, because I know that you had a little thing going on at your place. You were live streaming with some folks, and I know the kids are watching along with you. What was your overall take on SummerSlam 2022? Did you enjoy it? Was it marginal, or did you not enjoy it? What did you think of it overall?
Man, I tell you, I think it was the best SummerSlam, I guess, in the past, to me, last at least 2 years. It's been the best SummerSlam.
What was so special about it for you? Because that's pretty high praise there, Jay. What was it about SummerSlam this year that made such a big impression on you?
It shows the beginning of a new era with Triple H, Stephanie. I think it's showing there's time for a change, that it's not just about what the high end thinks. It's now about talent. It's not about just your looks or who you want to pick. It's just more about talent. I think it's time for talent, not time for just your look or what they could get out of you.
Deep. Good stuff. And I agree with you 100% there. Give me your top 3 picks. Let's go over 3 matches that made the biggest impression on you. And I know that you had a big reaction to the main event, so let's save that one for last. So other than the main event, Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, what were the 2 other matches on that card that really stood out for you?
Of course, I got to go with the Usos on the Street Profits. I love that match. The chemistry, the way that they sell, even that, the selling of the moves for them is just top notch. So I love that match. Having Jeff Jarrett there too, just reminding you what's going to happen the next night, was pretty awesome.
So the Usos and Street Profits, that was a long match too. That match went at least a half hour, right?
Yes. It was good. It was intense. It was a back and forward. And again, the chemistry, it just that much. They have a lot of chemistry, and it just make you stay in the match. You don't want to look away because you don't know what's going to happen next.
There are a lot of people that talk about the best tag team in the world and et cetera, et cetera. Jay, I believe the Usos, without question, and there's nobody, whoever number 2 is, they're not even close. I think the Usos are the absolute best tag team in the world. And not only that, they're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. What's your take on that?
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm a big, huge fan of the Revival, or FTR, however we want to call them. I'm a big fan, like top fan. But when you ask me who's the best all-around, all-time tag team, I got to go with the Usos. It just, come on. It's not even close. Right now, that's not even close.
I mean, there's just the bloodline, man. They're firing on all cylinders. And what I love about the Usos is that they keep finding new ways to become even more interesting. Like they're not just stuck doing one thing. This latest incarnation where they're messing with Sami Zayn, I find that so compelling and so interesting. I want to know what's going to happen. Sami Zayn wants to be part of the bloodline so bad, and he's not allowed to talk to Roman, so he's got to beg the Usos and Heyman, and they're looking at him like, yo, we got gold, where's yours? So now Sami Zayn's going to have to find a title to go after, and he better win it if he wants to be down with the crew. That's just interesting to me. I love that. I can't wait to see what happens next. But that just goes to show the Usos can have the best match or one of the best matches on the card every single night, but they have their character development down as well. So it just really, this is some of the best tag team work we've ever seen.
Yes. They kill everything that they do. They just, whatever they give them, they just elevate it.
Yeah.
And yes, Sami Zayn, I think Sami Zayn is great. And I think Sami Zayn need a chance. You give Sami Zayn a chance, man, I don't see why not even Sami Zayn taking a belt from Roman. Maybe, a hell of a kick. put his feet on the ropes for a pin, steal the win. I don't see why not. That'd be fun. That'd be different.
It would pop the whole damn world, man. People would go absolutely crazy over that.
Think about it.
That would be nuts. All right, so we know that the Usos versus and of course Street Profits. These guys, I know a lot of people keep talking about breaking them up. I think that would be the biggest mistake ever. I don't think we've seen nearly as much from the Street Profits as what they're capable of, and I don't think either one of them are ready for a true singles run. I think, Montez Ford is still trying to figure out what his body is going to look like. He's bulked up a lot. Is he going to be able to hold on to that? He's definitely lost a step in terms of speed since he's put on that extra muscle, which makes sense. But I think he needs to change his wrestling style a little bit if he wants to be geared for the long haul, because all that flippy dippy peanut butter skippy, he's going to break his neck out there. Whereas Dawkins, I think this guy just needs a little bit more confidence, because I think Dawkins is a future champion if he's packaged the right way. But
yes, I think the same thing. I think I'm the same way.
Either way, these guys, would you break them up right now, Jay, or would you give them a little bit more time as a team together?
No, you got to give them a little bit more time. And then for me, you got to start letting exactly Dawkins shine. Like, I believe that match with Seth Rollins and Montez Ford, I think would have went better if it was Dawkins and Seth.
Agreed.
I don't know. I wasn't complete into the match. It was a couple of things that slowed down the match, and a couple of things that knickknacks that you could see. Like, okay, hold on.
I take nothing away from Montez Ford. I enjoy him. I think he's a hell of a talent. But I think part of his problem is that he tries too hard. And
yes,
when people try too hard, that's when they set themselves up for making major mistakes. You know what I mean? Which could cost him a major injury, unfortunately. Whereas a guy like Dawkins, I don't think Dawkins realizes how good he actually is. And that's the scary part about that, because it's like he's really good, and he's got some good size on him for a big man. I don't like his ring gear. I think that, right? He kind of looks kind of sloppy with the ring gear, which is not, he's not a sloppy guy, so it's just kind of weird. But I think that if you package Dawkins a little bit, if you update him, the same way the Usos did. The Usos used to wear bright colors and all that other nonsense. When they came with how they really dress and they started allowing their real attitude to shine on TV, that's when the Usos were in their bag, as we see today. I think Dawkins needs that type of confidence boost. And if he got that, I think you got to put him in the main event scene right away, because that dude is talented enough where he could do it.
I'm with you there.
Okay, so you have one more before we talk about the main event. What was another match that really stood out for you?
I was going to go with the Liv and Ronda, but I got to go, of course, with the beginning of a new era. I think this match, Bianca and Becky, was really good, but it definitely represented the woman wrestling in WWE. It's going to have a big change, plus the beginning of a new era with Triple H and Stephanie. I think the whole match and everything around it was top notch.
I agree. And I got to be honest with you, Jay, I was very, very surprised at how good this match was. Not to be disrespectful to either of the ladies, because, Becky Lynch is one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I do give her a hard time because I expect more out of her. I feel like at times the quality of her wrestling has not been what it should be, considering her level of experience and who she's been in the ring with. But certainly over the past year since she's come back, she's been tremendous. And Bianca Belair, I think, is still trying to adjust to being a superstar. And just like anybody else, when you start a job and you get a promotion, it can take time for you to settle into your new role. But I got to tell you, this match in particular was the first time that I felt like Bianca Belair was wrestling like one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like, something clicked in this match with Becky Lynch, where everything Bianca had done with Bayley, everything Bianca had done with Sasha Banks, everything Bianca had done with Charlotte. It just all clicked in this match with Becky, and it truly was. It may go down as one of the matches of the year, quite frankly, just because of how excellent it was. And I was surprised that it started the night too, because they set a high bar that not too many other matches were able to live up to.
You could tell it was the beginning of a new era. Like, you had to, from now on, it's time to step out to the plate or get stepped on. Or you
That's
gotta
right.
you gotta start showing your talent. It's not just about your flips and your this or that. And now it's time to show talent. What can we do? What can we expose? What can we create new? What we could give to people? And I think everything around the match, it was that you're seeing exactly a different Bianca in that ring. And Becky, the ending for Becky, especially knowing that she had a separated shoulder, it's pretty dope. So you gotta acknowledge that match.
100%. And I know that you have some thoughts about the Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey match. I got to be honest with you, Jay. After seeing what Bianca and Becky did, I was very disappointed in the Liv and Ronda match. I thought the finish was good, but Liv Morgan, I don't know what's going on with her, but her quality of wrestling is so far below the rest of these women that it's really incredible that she's the champion, because she, in my opinion, and Jay, I want to hear yours because you might have a totally different take here, but in my opinion, Liv Morgan might be the worst women's wrestler in WWE right now.
Well, if we look at the quality of wrestling between the other girls, yes, she still needs a lot of work, but for what I see, what I get from Liv, she had work, not complain, take the loss, take this, take that, and I think it was time to give her a shine to see what she could do. But I don't believe I like her as a champion because I like Liv. I can't lie, I like Liv, but I don't think she's quality champion yet to be able to carry the belt and I don't think she's there yet. I don't think she's there. It's showing, and now it's showing with Ronda in the big matches, and even in her promos, you're seeing that she's not ready yet.
And that's unfortunate because, I can accept that from a Bianca Belair because she's still relatively new, Bianca Belair, and she has not been in the company that long. What is it? It's been maybe 5 years, 6 years tops.
Yeah. And if you think about it, as soon as Bianca came out to the roster, she got thrown into that mix of right away being the superstar, going for the belt, since the get. So they're seeing something more in Bianca. They're definitely seeing it in Liv. The thing is, Liv got the people behind her, but the other night it didn't look that way.
Well, they started booing her, and people are so confused why they're booing. I'm going to tell you right now, they're booing Liv Morgan because her quality of wrestling and her promos, just as you said, Jay, they're not where they should be. Liv has been in that company a lot longer than Bianca, and she's so far behind Bianca, it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to come down on anybody because I like Liv as a person. I don't know if you know this, she's an ordained minister. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to that little factoid there. She's into farming and stuff like that. I think she's a very interesting person, but it's very clear that her likability is what's helped her be where she's at, as opposed to her skill set, because her skill set is so below par given the amount of time the company has invested in her. They put her in the Riot Squad with Sarah Logan and Ruby Riott, two women who, will work in the indies and have so much experience and can actually wrestle. Liv Morgan is so far behind considering the amount of money that the company has spent investing in her. I'm not so sure if I was in charge, I wouldn't cut her. You know what I mean? It's like there's no reason to keep somebody like that, because you look at these girls coming up from NXT you look at, Lash Legend, and you look at is it Tiffany? The blonde girl, the Barbie looking girl who is just incredible in the ring.
Fit Barbie, something like that.
Yeah. She's doing a great job. You look at
we got Nikita Lyons.
Nikita Lyons, who she's been on the show, and then you have what's his name there, Santino's daughter, who is just tremendous. She is just tremendous. Yes. So it's like we got a whole crop of women coming up who, in my opinion, Jay, they're going to be this might be the golden era of women's wrestling in the WWE, even bigger than the four horsewomen era. The way that these NXT girls are coming up, because the quality of their work from the beginning is solid. It took the four horsewomen a couple of years to get to where they all were solid. These young ladies have less than a year, most of them, and they're already solid. So it's really interesting. You can't have a Liv Morgan in the mix of something like that when you have that type of quality coming up. So
and you having that roster, you got to remember you got Raquel Rodriguez.
Oh boy,
You got Xia Li already in there. Come on, you got a couple of names that. Come on, it's definitely Liv cannot compare to the wrestling ability and promo ability.
And it's unfortunate because again, she's a likable person. She's a beautiful young lady. I think she has a lot of personality traits that are interesting and are worth tapping into, especially the minister thing. I think that would be interesting to talk about on TV. But your promos and your wrestling, if you can't do the basics, why are you here? So, Liv Morgan, if you're listening, I know Stephanie McMahon listens to the show. She's got to step it up, Steph. She's got to step it up. And if she's selling merchandise and all that, and from a business standpoint, it makes sense to keep her. I get it. But it's disheartening on a competitive roster, and you have somebody who clearly is not their quality of work is not on par with everybody else. It just makes everybody else feel like they can't do enough to achieve what they need to achieve, despite the fact that they're doing so well. When you have somebody who's so far behind, despite the fact that they've been invested in so much, that's poison in the locker room. That's poison in the workplace. As a manager of people, I can't have an underperformer being the top person. That doesn't make sense. So I'll leave it at that. Let's get to the main event, Jay, because this was, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. They've wrestled each other at least 30 times in their career. So everybody was kind of, I don't want to see this again, yada, yada, yada. And then these guys do things in a match that has never been seen before. It's never happened before in the history of pro wrestling. What did you think of this main event of SummerSlam?
And again, it shows you there was a beginning of a new era. I just got to go back to that and emphasize that, because you would never thought of seeing Brock Lesnar in a farm truck picking out the ring. When you thought of seeing that? Like when? It's Brock Lesnar. It's a man looking, not talking to nobody, kept to himself, whatever. And then he come and does this. That was completely different. That was new. That's refreshing. I think if Brock continues doing this, again, he would not need a belt. If they give him a couple of things to do just like they're just messing around, man, forget it. It'd be money. And the match itself to me was good. I think it was a good match. It felt different than every single other match that they had. Again, I'm a Roman guy, and I'm a Brock guy. So seeing them, any main event to me is gonna be yes. I don't care, yes. But this match felt different. It's so different, and it gave the fans a chance to kind of believe that, okay, this is the last match, But nah, I think something's coming.
Well said, and I agree 100%, man. Because that if they're gonna be that creative then give me more. Like I can't wait to see what happens next. I think that it causes everybody to have to tune in. You know what I mean? Because pro wrestling has been around for hundreds of years, and yet they were able to do something that was never done before. How many times can you say that you saw something you never saw before especially in the WWE, which is relatively safe? They don't go out of their way to shock people too much in a match, at least. And yet there we go. And here's the best part about that, Jay. Brock Lesnar was able to pick the ring up with the damn farming tool, like you said, and do all that crazy stuff with it and what have you. All of that happened and nobody spilled any blood, right?
Yes.
You didn't have to do that. There was no flippy dippy peanut butter skippy. You didn't have to do any of that as well. And they were still able to put on the most talked about match of the year so far.
Yes. See, I like blood. I can't lie. I was expecting maybe Roman to bleed. I'm not going to lie. But the thing is, there's some other promotions now that doing blood. And to me, they're starting to go overboard on how much blood. The Stone Cold and Bret Hart match, when he's all bloody, I'm okay with that one. It didn't happen that many times. The other one that was really bloody to me was JBL and Eddie, if I'm not wrong. That one was bloody. But not every other night having a bloody match is appealing to me too much. So not having blood, it kind of was good. It gave the fans that, okay, here we go. We're going to entertain you. We're going to beat each other up. But we don't need to bleed to sell what we're doing.
Well said. Well said 100%. And it's we see this happening in AEW with Jon Moxley right now, where it seems like every time he walks out, he has to bleed. And it's such a cheap and unnecessary and dangerous thing to do. You really got to wonder who's in charge here and when can we dial some of that stuff back? Because at the end of the day, people want to see quality product. They don't need to see all these little weird bells and whistles that amount to nothing. If he's bleeding against Mance Warner, whoever the hell that is, then I guess anybody can bust Jon Moxley open, right?
Exactly. And having a pay-per-view called Blood and Guts, why don't you keep the blood and guts for blood and guts?
Yeah.
It makes sense. Not having it every other night in live TV, and then you have a pay-per-view called Blood and Guts, or a show called Blood and Guts, and still have blood, and why is making it relevant? Not just making it relevant now.
I agree. So SummerSlam, once again, bang up show. Good stuff there, WWE. Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, co-CEO. Stephanie is the chairwoman of the board of directors for WWE Incorporated. Great stuff. Triple H, he's the head of talent relations and the lead booker now. So congratulations. I still, Triple H, you're still new Coke to me. I still need to see more out of you, but from what we've seen so far, you're moving in the right direction. So keep that momentum going. Now, another.
If you don't mind me interrupted, Duke.
Go ahead.
If we're talking about SummerSlam, we can't forget Dakota Kai and Io Sky coming back.
True.
That to me, that's epic. When Dakota Kai came out, I said, "Oh my God, okay, we got 2x2, 2-on-2." Becky. That's why Becky went to the side like that, and she didn't leave. She went to the side by commentator. That's why she didn't leave. So I said, okay, 2-on-2. Well, then seeing Io Shirai or Io Sky coming out, man, we freaked out. Me and my son, we freaked out.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier about that women's division being very competitive, which means that we can't have people, not pulling their weight, because Ito, I guess we got to call it Io Sky, 100% is one of the best women's wrestlers to ever come around over the past decade. She's incredible. And at any point, Dakota Sky, you can make the same argument about her. especially when it comes to tag team wrestling. So these are two women who mean serious business, and they're going to be great challengers in that women's division. And then you have Bayley, who legitimately is one of the greatest of all time. So that's a hell of a trio there. And I can't wait to see. Here we go again. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. You know, people are going to be tuning in because it's very compelling. Now, there was another event that happened over the weekend, and that's Ric Flair's last match. Before we talk about the main event, was there any match on that card that stood out for you that it was like, wow, I didn't see that coming? That was pretty damn good.
3 matches. It was 3 matches that I believe that those 3 matches, and to me, completely stand out, made the show that even better, more interesting. And it took some of the probably backlash or maybe people talking bad about the event and whatever. It kind of helped the event take some of the bright lights away from Rick a little bit so people could enjoy something else before that. So to me, Smith Jr. and Killer Cross, that was a good match to me. Of course, I'm a Killer Cross guy, Karrion Kross. So that was a good match. The Samoan Werewolf match, that dude, and the Impact Champion. Oh man, I need to see that, and I need to see him, the Samoan Werewolf, as the Impact Champion. I liked that match, and then I liked the Lucha Libre match. I forgot. I think Rey Fenix was in that match, if I'm not wrong. Well, that match was awesome. That match was awesome too.
All right, so you definitely were impressed by this event. So talk to me about the main event. Ric Flair, Andrade versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. What did you think about the main event?
I enjoyed it. I liked it. Like I said, and people might say, "Oh no, I don't think so." Come on, how can you say that? But you give me the episodes that Ric Flair did to his last match, including the match, has been the most entertaining besides SummerSlam wrestling that I think I had enjoyed in the past 2-3 months.
Deep.
Just the way there was build up, and then you see the match itself. You see the bloody Ric Flair. You see the bumps that he's taking. What he's trying to do, how people is behind him, when he's doing his stroll, when he's doing his woo, when he's doing his chops. You know, it was really good to me, and I enjoyed the whole match. Andrade is really good. Jay Lethal, Jay Lethal needs to be somebody franchise. And Jeff Jarrett is, you know, another legend. So to me, it was great. It was a good match. Besides, of course, Flair, you could see the age. You could see, of course, he started bleeding. He got tired, but it was a little stiff. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for a guy that age to be able to do what he did in that match, it was something else, man. It was definitely something else. I didn't like the blood, but it's Ric Flair, so I get it. But I didn't like the blood. I thought it was unnecessary. But for Ric Flair, a guy who's died 4 times in his life and managed to survive it, they brought him back to life 4 times. The man's had all his organs shut down before. For him to be in a match, that match lasted long. I mean, it was over 20 minutes. Taking bumps, picking people up and doing things like it was special. And that's why I hope Ric Flair never wrestles again, because don't market to us that it's your last match if it's not.
Exactly.
Let's respect the fans. And let's respect the marketing of this event, because it was highly successful too. A lot of people tuned in online, bought the pay-per-view. They did a great attendance, made a lot of money at the gate. So it was a financially successful event. let's end on that high note and leave it at that. You know what I mean?
Let's not get hurt now.
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's the other thing. We don't need to see Ric Flair literally die in the ring. Nobody wants to see that, no matter how much Flair is going to try. And I hope that people like Conrad, who's a friend and been on the show numerous times, I hope that you guys really, I know that Rick is at that age where no one can tell him anything, but it's time. It's time to start telling him something. It's okay, you know?
That's right. That's right. I take him as a manager. Just keep him up the ring.
Yeah. Yeah, he could be the manager all day long. I love it. And in fact, I want to see him back in the WWE managing. I think that's interesting, you know? But time will tell. Listen, you know, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about Andrade, because he has not wrestled much on TV since being in AEW. And he certainly has. I don't even think Andrade's won a match, or if he has, maybe it's been one match. He doesn't win matches on TV anymore. In retrospect, was it a mistake for Andrade to leave the WWE?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, Duke. I think Andrade should have probably waited a little bit longer, try his luck probably a little bit in the Indies, just take a couple contracts here and there and waited, you know, his options. I love the fact that the way that he debuted, the way they brought him, the mask, everything. I like it. It's Andrade. And I like his work a lot. And I think he could be definitely Rey Mysterio retire. I think we got the next Latino face, you know, of wrestling for us. So I think he should have waited, not signed that quick, and waited his options, and maybe try to come back to WWE somehow. Even if Vince was still in there, I would have tried to come back some way somehow. Because I think Andrade got something else that AEW, besides Chris Jericho and whatnot, understand there's the entertainment side of it. I think Andrade could give you that. And Andrade would have been a lot better. And let's say now Triple H and Triple H hands, forget it. Maybe he hasn't won because of the wedding, because this going on, the last Ric Flair last match. Maybe it has to do with that. That way they could keep him off TV. Maybe now we're at where his wedding finished, honeymoon, Ric Flair's last match, with all that finished, maybe now he could focus in AEW. Maybe. So we'll see.
I hope you're right, man. I hope you're right. Another one is the guy formerly known as Rusev. Miro is complaining that he doesn't appreciate his spot in AEW. He feels like he should be given more. This is another guy that, although the WWE did let him go because of the pandemic, he's the type of guy who I would have assumed they would have brought back. I don't know, man. I see a situation in AEW where you have a promotion that tried to convince everybody that they were going to be a true alternative and they were going to be so great. And now here we are 3 years later, and the fans, their own fans, are turning on them because they have not delivered on what they claimed they were going to deliver.
You know what? One thing.
Yeah.
If you excuse me, Doug, I feel like they started giving something fresh and different. But then friendship. You could see friendship. When friendship is running business and you continue to give the people the same run around, and ending up in Handman, ending up in now Adam Cole, they lead, they're undisputed. They're already trying to put things around Kenny Omega. Moxley, they need Moxley. I think even though the blood and everything with Moxley is kind of getting tiring, but if you don't have Moxley there, I think, and Chris Jericho, you got nothing. There's other guys there that I like, that I enjoy. Keith Lee, Swerve, Ricky Starks, Hobbs, Hook, Darby, Sting. Yes, you got those names. But if you don't start spending out of the same people and letting other people grow and holding people back You're going down because it is revolving around the same people. At the end of the day, you look at the storylines, it revolves around the same exact people. Now the storyline that they're trying to build is the Elite against the Undisputed. Again, same people. You're forgetting you got FTR. Why you not build something with FTR then, I don't know, a new team? Besides going to them for the trio champion. Why the friends, they are running the business, are winning the belts first than everybody else.
Couldn't said any better myself, brother. You hit it right on the head. That is why he is the Rebel Collector. That's why he's the man, brother Jay. Jay, let everybody know what's the best way that they can follow you online and see all the shenanigans that you and the family get into.
You can follow us on TikTok as Can I Get a Hell? Yeah, with 3 A's at the end. You can follow me at Rebel_Collector and Twitter. You can find us there. And then you could connect with me. You can connect with Karina as well separately. But we're always there. We will be here. And it's wrestling time.
I'll tell you, brother. Now, listen, before I let you go, talk to me about the Puerto Rican food, man. Have we tried anything new? Is there anything from that restaurant that you like so much? Is there anything on the menu there that you hadn't tried until recently that you enjoyed?
Well, now he got a ceviche. He just started doing a ceviche. It's I think it has octopus, shrimp, calamari, and of course the other stuff. I really don't know much on how to make a ceviche, but man, that thing was good.
Well, here's the thing about ceviche. You know, that stuff is not cooked.
Yes, it's raw.
It's well, here's the thing. It's raw, but it is all the bacteria and stuff is killed off because of the acidity from whatever they use, which normally would be like a lime juice. So they get it cold to a certain point, and then they pour the lime juice in there with the onion and everything like that, mix it up, and that's enough to kill off the bacteria so that you have something that's so fresh and delicious. So, man, so they got a ceviche now. Do they give you chips with it? What do they have with it?
Tostones, fried plantains.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow. I knew you would have something. I knew you would try something, Jay.
Hey, just the other day, he decided to bring a Haitian chef. Her name was Rose. And it was pretty, it was really good. Pretty good food with a little bit Haitian taste on it.
Wow. See, we're going all over the Caribbean now. I love it. Man.
You gotta come to Pensacola.
I know that's the plan. I gotta make it out there. We'll have to record you and I going a couple of food joints when I come out, man. We gotta do it big.
Definitely. I love to eat. Don't worry. You like coffee?
Of course. I'm a big coffee drinker.
So let's do this. We got a couple of places, but there's one that's called Drowsy Point. Woo, perfect.
All right, so how do you have your coffee at this place? Let's end on this note here. What is the J special at this place?
I gotta go with the vanilla espresso. What is it? Vanilla Poeccino. It's frozen. Oh man, with an extra shot of espresso. Oh man,
that'll wake you up.
Yes. We're going to the beach drinking that.
so we're going to get some Puerto Rican food, some Haitian food, and we're going to get some frozen espresso to wash it all down. I love it. Jay, thank you once again for joining Duke Loves Rasslin.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
This is Alan Roulette of River Horse Photography and River Horse Photography Allure, and you are listening to Duke Loves Rasslin.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have one of our all-time favorites back on the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast, a man that has continued to monitor what's going on in women's wrestling and beyond. And really is someone that I have a tremendous amount of respect for because, again, he uses facts in order to come to his conclusions about things in wrestling. And again, it's just refreshing. It's refreshing in a world where people believe that their opinion means more than anything else, and how they feel must be what matters, as opposed to, no, these are the facts. This is the data, regardless of how I feel. This is what's really going on. And then providing analysis with that foundation. So without further ado, welcome back the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rob the Genius. What's going on there, Rob?
Hey, man, good to be back.
It is great to have you back, my brother. Before we get started, plug your social media, plug your website for us. Let's just lead with that, please.
Okay, you can find me on Twitter at RBONNE1, or my kind of tag name is Rob the Genius. And you can find my website is robsagenius.com, ROBSAGENIUS.com. And you can hear me on the Mindless Wrestling podcast once a week. And you can hear me every week and a half or every 2 weeks or so on my own podcast, the Rob the Genius podcast. So I'm all over the place.
All of you folks out there with content creators, if you're not reaching out to Rob the Genius to collaborate with or have on your show, you're making a big mistake, because this dude legitimately, he has so much to offer because he actually takes a look at the data. And that is what's missing in most of these wrestling podcasts and these wrestling shows. It's just, who cares about your opinion if you don't have some facts to back it up? You know, so you need a guy like Rob to kind of, he helps me reset, and he challenges my thinking and what I believe I'm seeing out there by providing the facts. So it's again, refreshing, and definitely, folks, collaborate with this man. It's worth it. Rob, we're in August now.
Yeah.
A lot has happened.
Oh, yeah. So we got Vince is retired. Hunter's taken over. Warner Brothers Media, Zaslav is on the rampage. There's a whole lot going on here.
It
Since
sure
I was
is.
last on with you. Yeah.
It sure is. It's crazy, man. And let me ask you this before we even get into some of the data points here. Based on the conversations that we've had just about where we see AEW going, especially with the lack of women's wrestling content they've put on TV, and their issues with diversity in terms of who they're featuring, how often, the lack of black and brown people in the main event scene consistently, things like that. Does it surprise you that everyone is finally starting to admit that AEW is not likely to get a new contract with Warner Brothers Discovery?
No, I was because I listened to your man Tony
Baglio. Shout out to Tony Baglio, good man there with IndieWire, of course.
Yeah, so I listened to that whole episode he had recently. Now, I admit I was a bit surprised that he was that dire about it, because I figured that, before all this stuff started happening with Zaslav cutting all this stuff, I figured that they would probably get renewed, but they wouldn't get anywhere near as big of a raise as like Brandon Thurston was saying, right? He was out here saying they'd get like a 5-time increase. And I'm sorry, you're smoking rocks if you believe that. But I thought they would. I thought they were at least a shoe-in to get renewed. And so after listening to Tony, look, anything is possible now. To be honest, because he made a good point that even if they don't get a raise, that's $45 million. The deal right now that they have is $45 million a year for TV rights. And the way that Zaslav is just taking a battle axe to everything that he can find, you can't rule it out that he's going to see $45 million a year and say, we got to get rid of that. You can't rule it out. So it is very possible that, that when their contract is up, that they won't get renewed with Warner. Now Tony believes that if that happens, they will land somewhere else. So I'll trust him. He knows what he's talking about. I think I would trust him on that to be right, because they are getting 900,000 viewers every week. That is not something you can just pull out of thin air if you're a cable channel. So I think if they don't get renewed, they'll get picked up by somebody. But I think you got to definitely think it's on the table that they don't get renewed now because I mean the way that Zaslav is just killing all of these projects. You, you can't just sit there and say that well, there's no way he's going to touch AEW, right? I mean he's just going to town here, and anywhere where they can find some money to save.
Well, one of the things that Zavlov said, and again, we're talking Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav, aka Zaz. He made it clear that there's $3 billion from this new company, Warner Brothers and Discovery, being merged. It's called Warner Brothers Discovery. There's $3 billion with a B, $3 billion of fat that he needs to cut, and he's going to find it. And certainly he's been doing a very aggressive job at cutting things that surprises people. But one of the points that he's making is that the return on investment is not justifiable enough for us to continue to invest in these properties. So in the case of an AEW, they are trying to appeal to the key demo. That's what they keep saying. This is not my opinion. This is what Tony Khan has said. That's their core audience. Tony has touted, our audience is they have the most disposable income and all this other nonsense. He's talking about white men, basically.
Yeah.
In 2022 and going into the future here, that's not enough. You need to have a diversified audience so that you can have a diversified ad revenue base. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of these folks have made, and Rob, I want to get your take on this statement that I'm about to make here. I think having blinders on and only focusing on one specific type of customer, one specific type of consumer, as opposed to looking at the landscape and realizing that the more people in the family that we can attract, the more money we can make. I think it's been a big mistake that a lot of brands have made. And especially in pro wrestling with an AEW, they bought into this notion. And the fact that they haven't been renewed yet lets me know that this notion was probably not the way to go. What do you think?
Well, yeah. Now, here's the thing, right? Because when they started out, they made a hard sell for the disgruntled WWE fan or disgruntled former WWE fan. That was their hard sell for who they were trying to reach. That particular group of fans are mostly white men. Okay. That's who mostly makes up that group. So whether it was intentional or not, that ends up that demographic ended up being their target audience. Because and then look, and that's not to say that us, black people love everything about the WWE. No, we don't. But understand that in the past couple of years, there has been noticeable progress on, the makeup of the roster, the makeup of who gets pushed, and all of that. There has been progress there. The idea that look, me and you, we've sat through decades of almost all white WWF and WWE rosters. The idea that we'd be ready to bail today with Bianca Belair and Big E and Bobby Lashley and all these other folks, the idea that we would bail now is a little crazy, right? So these disgruntled, pissed off, disgruntled WWE fans or disgruntled former WWE fans. They're a lot like the pissed off comic book fans who just coincidentally started to get pissed off as you started to see more, female superheroes, more black and brown superheroes, more, LGBT superheroes. That also gave rise to this kind of section of comic book fans who are pissed off about comic books now. And comic books they're not as good as they used to be. And they're to this and they're to that now. And, blah, blah, blah. It's the same kind of demographic. It's made up of the same people. And if you're going to make a hard sell to the disgruntled fan of a lot of these different genres, whether it's pro wrestling or comic books or video games or other things, if you're going to make a hard sell for the disgruntled fan demographic, those are mostly white men. So there is a real good chance that that's going to end up being your audience or your customer base, or a good part of your audience or customer base. Now, we both know, some black people who do watch AEW, so that's not the entire fan base. But you make this hard pitch for the disgruntled fan, the disgruntled Star Wars fan. Those are mostly white men. The people who were pissed off because you had the sister playing the Sith or the Inquisitor in the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing that just ended, right? I mean, who are those people who were pissed off about this stuff? They're mostly white men. So if you're going to make a hard sell for the disgruntled fan demographic, that is mostly white men. And there's plenty of evidence, data, anecdotal evidence and whatnot to prove it. So that's how you end up where you are. Now this thing with AEW, first of all, the Warner Discovery merger is one of those things that was those leveraged mergers, which means that you end up, the company that as it is comprised after the merger is in a shit ton of debt. Because, you don't walk in there with a tractor trailer full of cash to make that kind of deal. It's bought on credit and leveraged and this, that, and the other. So you end up with a whole lot of debt. And because actually Discovery was much smaller than Warner Media, and Discovery was the one doing the purchasing. So yeah, they racked up a lot of debt to make the purchase. So now they're in debt up their eyeballs. So now they have to cut a bunch of stuff. And now where this pertains to AEW is, it's real simple. It's a $45 million line item. And the only thing that Warner Media gets out of AEW is some ad revenue. And this is another thing that Tony mentioned during, all they get from AEW is ad revenue. So they don't get a piece of the action on pay-per-view or ticket sales or merchandise or any of that. All they get is ad revenue, and then they're paying them $45 million a year. That's a pretty black and white, cost benefit analysis kind of situation here. So it really just depends on when they get around to this meeting and talking about AEW, they're going to look at it and say, okay, right now we pay them $45 million. We get, I don't know, whatever they get back in ad revenue. We don't know those numbers, but and they're just going to look at it, and it's going to be real simple. Do we get enough ad revenue back off of this $45 million we spend every year or not? If we're getting enough money back off of for the $45 million we spend, then all right, if we can't find something better, then we'll stick with it. If we're not getting enough ad revenue back off of this $45 million, then what are we doing here? And it's really and that's all it's going to come down to. It's got nothing to do with whether or not you like their style of wrestling or whether or not how the show is booked. Got nothing to do with that. It's just point blank. This cost us. We spend $45 million a year for this show. We get back, however much we get back in ad revenue. Does the money we get back in ad revenue justify the expenditure? And that is because Zaslav, that is all he is about. He is bottom line. He is not sentimental about this at all. So it is a very black and white bottom line. Do we make enough to warrant warrant paying this money every year? And that's going to be a yes or no question, an up or down, yes or no question. And how that question gets answered is going to determine what decision is made. And it's real simple.
It really is. It really is. And it's interesting because we're going to be in a situation where if they get the contract that somebody like Brandon Howard Thurston III from WrestleNomics Radio, he's been on Duke Loves Rasslin numerous times, although I think Tony Khan put a kibosh to that. Don't worry, Brandon. I still love you, man. But, Brandon's saying that they should get somewhere between a 3 to 5x increase, which, are you kidding me? AEW is going to be paid $200 million a year for their programming. By who? Brandon, like Rob said earlier, I think you might be smoking rocks or something. I think that we're either going to be talking about, well, they managed to pull it off. So what were the elements that made that possible? How did this brand convince a entity, whether it's Warner Brothers Discovery or anyone else, to pay them that kind of money? We're either going to be saying that, or we're going to be saying, okay, where did they fail? What was missing in their product that made it essentially impossible for them to be able to be signed to a more lucrative deal and dig them out of debt? I'm going to stick on the diversity piece. I think that the lack of women's wrestling on TV, only having one match per week is it definitely has put them in a position where they're less attractive. I think not having clear-cut black and brown male singles wrestlers, which is their number one division of the company, I think not having black and brown male singles wrestlers in the title hunt definitely hurts them from a branding standpoint. And I think overall, if you're only attracting white males as your audience and you're not trying to attract anyone else, you put yourself in a position where you're pigeonholed so much, you're a niche of a niche. It's just a hard sell. You know what I mean? You're not going to get M&M Mars. You're not going to get the major car brands. You're not going to get these family-friendly, Disney World or something like that. No one wants to advertise to something that's so small. They want bigger and better. They want diversity. So, it's going to be interesting, the conversation we have around this. Was that?
Yeah, and you also got to include just some of the content. Like every week somebody's bleeding now.
Yeah, ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. A turnoff. Yeah. It's a turnoff to sponsors in particular. If it happens, if it happens every now and then, yeah, you can clear something like that. But if you're doing it and it's happening almost every week now, and look, whether you care about it or not, look, some people are perfectly fine with blood in the matches or whatever. Whether you're fine with it, whether you want to see more of it, or whether you don't like it at all, it is absolutely a turn off to sponsors. It is. So that's an issue. I mean, they're not as sponsor friendly as they could be, for sure.
So then where's the incentive for any network to do business with them? And I guess that's been my sticking point since day one, Rob.
What?
If you're not putting the needs of the sponsors, if you're not making yourself as attractive as possible for the sponsors, then you shouldn't be. You're missing the whole point of being on TV.
Well, yeah. Now there is like the second and third tier of cable channels who are absolutely desperate.
But they don't have the money, Rob. They're not going to pay you $200 million.
No, they're not. No, you're not. And you're not going to get $45 million.
You're not even going to get that, exactly, because they don't have the money.
You're not.
Yeah,
right. But so that will be a problem if they end up having to do that. Then they are going to have to release people because they're not going to have the money to pay these people. They
can't even just release people. See, so here's my next thing. Their whole identity is built around former WWE stars and the indie darlings who maybe spent some time in ROH and New Japan. Well, those folks aren't going to take the kind of hit that would be necessary in order to bring that payroll down. So you're in a situation where you're just going to have to get rid of those folks. But who are you going to have left? Who the hell is going to watch that programming? You know what I mean? If that were possible, then another company would have been able to pull that off all these years. Clearly, they haven't. Not even Impact Wrestling could pull that off. So there's no audience for a lesser wrestling company with lesser stars long term. It's just not, from a financial standpoint, it's not a reasonable thing, and it definitely is not a TV worthy thing.
No, because what you would have to do is basically like MLW. They're on the BN Network, which
whatever
is like
that is. Yeah,
it's like a D-level cable channel, and then they also they run they broadcast their shows on YouTube, after later on, but they don't make a lot of money, and they don't pay people a lot of money.
Oh.
So like, because you see, like the guys who work on MLW are all working indie shows, when they're not there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think MLW. There's no way they're generating any more than a couple $1 million, if that, per year.
And again, because all their guys work indie shows.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about being able to pay people where you only have to work one job, where you don't have to go take a bunch of indie dates to make ends meet, yeah, it's tough because even Ring of Honor, the head guys their guys were working indie dates also, and the people who work at Impact work other dates places, and man, it's going to be, they're going to have to make some decisions, and honestly, this will be detrimental for the entire industry, because anytime you get any type of wage, kind of depression, it affects the entire industry, because they'll have to make some decisions on who to keep and who not to. And then now, without them being as lucrative an option, now the WWE doesn't have to pay people as much.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Rob, we know, we have an idea of what's going to happen just based on the way that Shad Khan, Tony Khan's father and the owner of AEW, just by the way he does business. I mean, look what he just did with Black News Channel. Based on those facts, Shad Khan is going to put AEW in bankruptcy. Once Warner Brothers Discovery makes it clear that they're not going to sign AEW to any kind of increase, if they even keep them at all on their networks, Shad Khan is going to put AEW in bankruptcy. He's not going to continue to have this money-losing operation with no future of success in sight. It's just he's not the type of businessman that's going to keep pumping money into something like that, regardless of if it's Tony Khan's inheritance or not. I find it very interesting that Tony Khan was not the one to own AEW from the beginning, even though allegedly it's his money from his inheritance. If it's his money, then why wouldn't he be the owner? He had to use his father as collateral, and they share a lot of the same backstage employees that are Jacksonville Jaguars backstage employees. They share the same office. They share the same building as far as their main operations base. So, Tony has taken very little, if any, risk on a personal level. This is all being financed by the Jaguars and by his daddy, which, his daddy owns the Jaguars. There's no way that Shad can continue to take that loss for much longer. So this was an opportunity for Tony to pump that company up to a point where he could pay off all its debts and then, possibly actually take over completely from his dad. He wasn't able to do it, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it. I think AEW is finished, and I think with Ring of Honor, information, and I don't know if you saw this online, Rob, but information is starting to come out that it doesn't even look like Tony Khan owns Ring of Honor, because the paperwork hasn't been finalized.
Yeah, because I did see those tweets that you referred to, and I did a little homework myself on that. I just looked up the addresses to see if they were real. Because look, I mean, people get fooled with documents all the time on the internet. It's ended careers, like Dan Rather, for example, right? So people who are doing good, honest work can still get fooled by documents on the internet. So I just, looked up a couple of those addresses in those, and the addresses are authentic. So the guy who looked up that stuff, it looks like it looks like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I went on the Maryland Secretary of State's website and just looked up Ring of Honor's filings. So this is all public record. They're a business, so they have to disclose certain information. Tony Khan's name is not on anything, nor is his company. So this is a problem.
Yeah. And well, I'll say this is unfortunate. It's unfortunate because there are good people who work there who, if all this stuff falls apart, if all this stuff goes south, there are going to be good people who work there who are out of work.
Oh yeah,
And
oh
that's
yeah.
the real and that's the real tragedy of all of this. And but it's looking more and more like he's basically has a house of cards here, and
It's fallen. It's
it's not
fallen
on very
apart. Yeah.
yeah. And now, we still have, a few years for this to play out. So
Well,
he very
we have a year. So here's the thing. The contract is up in December of 2023. Then the network has a 1-year option to keep them until 2024. I'm going to make a bold statement based on all the information that's available to us today, based on the way Zaz is making cuts, based on the poor management of Tony Khan, based on the quality of the product itself continuing to lose value and lose their fan base. Even their core audience is not satisfied with what they're putting out there right now. I don't think Warner Brothers Discovery is going to pick up their option. And in fact, I would be shocked if AEW continues to air all the way through December of 2023. I think that program gets cut within the next 12 months. They won't even make it to August of 2023 on Warner Brothers Discovery.
Okay, now I'll be a little. I'll hedge a little bit there. I do think not picking up the option is definitely a strong possibility. Because it's a very easy thing to do. It's very easy to just not pick up the option. That's not a difficult decision to make one way or the other, whether you're going to stick with it or not. As far as canceling them early, now, I guess it depends, because if they make a decision that they're done and they're out of here, then yeah, you might as well get them out of here sooner than later.
Look at what they've cut. Look at all these big time franchises with name value, with far bigger audience bases and delivering on far bigger demo numbers. Look at what they've gotten rid of already.
Yeah. And because honestly, like before all of this stuff started happening with Zaslav, I was not too eager to jump out there and say they were in trouble, because look, I did not want to be that guy saying that and then end up with egg on my face, right? And so I would just look until we get some real information that points to it being a possibility. I'm going to hedge, on saying that they're in trouble. But now, I mean, it's definitely. It's definitely on the table, right? I mean, just all the things, again, all the stuff, all the information you can look at here, it is definitely on the table. And again, it's just, what are they getting back for the $45 million they're paying every year? And that's what it comes down to. If they're not getting enough back, then that's it. And
Yeah.
and I'm saying that because look, me and you, we're both critical of Tony Khan. We're both been very critical of the AEW product itself, but I think it is very much a bottom line thing. And because Zaslav's not a wrestling guy anyway, so he probably doesn't particularly care too much about the content unless he finds unless he sees that the content itself is costing them money. But he probably doesn't really care. But he is going to look at the bottom line, and look, it's a $45 million expenditure every year, and the only thing you get back is ad revenue. So it's very black or white. It's very bottom line, and that's all there is to it. And I guess now, because now with their audience, here's the thing, right? Because I've been looking at this too, and look, we've talked about how unreliable the Nielsen thing itself is. And I stand by that. One thing what you have to do if you're going to look at ratings numbers and all of that stuff, it's a very flawed system, obviously. So all you can do is you can compare things within that system, and just make sure you apply the same rules to everything within that system. And so you can do that, and you can glean some information from it. It's just I would not, you just have to be careful with how you use that information to, forecast things and whatnot. But what I will tell you is that the audience itself is very stagnant. And
Oh,
what I mean by this,
it's going backwards, isn't it?
well, all right, well, since they moved to TNT, and this is the important thing, right? Because last year, like the last couple of months out of the year, for a while, they got moved to Saturday a couple of times, and then they were live on the West Coast for a while. And you can't really get, that's not even apples and oranges. That's apples and something else entirely. But they've been on TNT since January of this year. And so you can look at that entire period because they haven't gotten moved around. They've never gotten preempted for anything or none of that. So they have been on TNT at 8 o'clock every Wednesday since January 5th of this year. So you can look at this entire period and you can judge that entire period on what it looks like. So and I've been doing that. So what I have basically, their audience is very stagnant and they average 950,000 viewers. That's the average for this year every week. But here's the kicker though. Here's the important thing. All right, from week to week, the average kind of change in the audience up or down is just 2,000 people. That's negligible. That's not even 1%. So their audience from week to week doesn't even change by 1%, which means that, I mean, basically it's the same people every week.
It's the same people, and it's not a surprise when we go back to the philosophy of the company. This is what Tony Khan was saying. This is what Cody Rhodes was saying. This is what Chris Jericho was saying. They wanted to focus on their core audience, and they were so focused on the key demo, which for them, their key demo is white males. What is it, 18 to 45? So that's what they focused on. And hey, look, they've done a job. I can't even call it a good job because there's a hell of a lot more white males 18 to 45 available than 1 million people. Yet that's all they keep hovering around 1 million people every week as far as what they can attract. And we know that number is a lot more accurate than the number of people of color that they're attracting. And we know that they're over-indexing in that key demo because if you throw people of color in there, especially black and brown households, that key demo number will drop like a rock because of the issues with Nielsen not counting us accurately, specifically here. So their audience is actually smaller and more homogenous than we even realize. They've tapped into everyone that they can attract with the way that they do business. And that's why, like what you just said there, Rob, the variation from week to week is not dramatic for Dynamite. Now, here's the best part. They can't even bring that same audience over to Rampage. They can't even bring that same audience over to their web shows, which you can watch at any point that you want.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah, so I think there's no question about that variation, like you just said. It's because they haven't changed the product enough to attract anyone more than what they've been able to attract so far, Rob.
Right, and that's, I mean, and it's pretty spelled out in black and white now because, and look, that's over we're in the middle of August, so basically 7.5 months we're looking at, which is a pretty decent sample size. Like we're not talking about 2 weeks or something here. We're talking about 7.5 months where they have been on the same night in the same time slot, with no variation. So yeah, they average the change from week to week is 2,000 people out of 950,000. So that's less than 1% that their audience changes from week to week. And it's just, and even some of their like kind of special branded episodes don't really change things much.
Well,
Like
here's the
the la-
thing. Here's the thing, Rob. You look at WWE with NXT, right? They're telling you that these are lesser wrestlers. This is a developmental brand, so you're not going to see the same superstars that you see on Raw and SmackDown.
right.
And so the variation in how many people watch that show is understandable because you're not getting the same quality of show. But Raw and SmackDown, for the most part, their numbers are very close to each other. You know what I mean? It's like SmackDown does more, but SmackDown is also available in more homes around the
Right.
nation. So that variation between the two shows, where a Raw is probably going to average somewhere around 1.6, even though we know that that number is not completely accurate, it's what they're using. So fine, a 1.6, and we know that SmackDown is going to do about a 2.1. That's understandable considering the variation of how many people actually have the channel USA Network compared to Fox. AEW's variation, you got the same superstars for the most part on the same channel, just different nights. How the hell is this such a dramatic variation between Rampage and Dynamite?
Well, because Rampage isn't a terrible time slot there Friday at 10. And the other thing is that, well, I mean, that's one of those things where you'd have to ask people who watch both, and ask people who only watch Dynamite, because I mean Rampage, you're looking at, on average, their average number is 500,000.
Is that their average for the year?
So well, that's their average since CM Punk came back last year. So it's been about a full year, and their average over this basically full year since CM Punk came back is 500,000 people. And now they haven't actually had 500,000 people in a while. The last time they had over 500,000 people was in April. Because and in the last, and then they did get moved around for a few weeks because of like NBA and NHL playoffs and whatnot. But since they've been on at the same time since June 10th. So since June 10th, they're averaging 430,000 people. All right. So that's about a month and a half we're talking, or almost 2 full months. They've been averaging, for the last 2 full months, they've been averaging 430,000 people according to Nielsen. Now, of course, again, we know that that's an undercount, but there isn't a whole lot of variance there either. The average over this past year, their average kind of variance in week to week is 5,000 people, which is about 1% of their audience. So again, you're not getting a lot of movement here at all. So basically, and that's no matter who they put on. They've had Daniel Bryan on the show. They've had CM Punk wrestle on the show. They've had Kenny Omega wrestle on the show. And they still haven't been able to do much above in the 500,000 range. And again, it's Friday night, 10 o'clock. And I think now I will say, whatever happens with the TV contract, I'm going to go ahead and predict that Rampage is cooked. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say that, because you can very easily replace 400,000 people on a Friday night. I mean, you can do reruns of something and get that. So I think Rampage is probably cooked, and then whatever happens with the TV deal, if they do survive on TBS for Dynamite, I think Rampage is probably done. But again, there's not a lot of movement from week to week. And like they're gonna, I mean, they long term they have to find some way to do something about that because, well, put it like, okay, if you look at the lifespan of a TV show, usually, okay, you have a certain number that you debut with. Let's say, the Duke and Rob's talk show, right? And let's say we debut with 1 million viewers, right? And then let's say that if our show was going to have any type of lengthy run, at some point we get, something, we do something on the show that gets hot and it increases our audience for a few years. And then we hit kind of a peak and we stay there for a little while. And then we just kind of gradually decline as long as we're on the air. Right? That's the usual lifespan of a TV show. They haven't had that. Their peak was at the when they debuted. And and then they went down from that, and then they plateaued. And they're in year 3 now. And usually, I mean, if a TV show gets hot and starts to get a bump in their audience, it'll usually be like the second or third season, right? Because more people will get wind of it. There'll be some character that captivates people, or some relationship on the show that captivates people, and they'll start tuning in, and then the show will become like a fad almost, and and then it'll attract more people for a little while. They haven't hit that stage yet, right? Because look, I mean, on Monday Night Raw started in 1993. They got hot with Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? And the audience shot up to like 6 million people, and that was the peak. And they've been kind of leveling off since then, but they had a period where they shot up. Nitro had, they debuted. I don't know what they debuted with, but the NWO got hot, and then they shot up 5-6 million people. That was their peak. And had things not gone bad with AOL, Time Warner, and all of that, had things not gone bad on that end, and had they stayed on the air, they would have had a gradual decline from that 6 million people to whatever it ended up with. So AEW hasn't hit the increase yet. They haven't found that thing that will get more people, that will just attract more people to just start checking their show out because it's a cool thing to do, even, right? They haven't hit that yet. They haven't found that yet.
And I don't think in their current state, with who they have as their president, Tony Khan, his lack of experience is showing. Because you can't hotshot your way into success. You know what I mean? No. Over time, you really have to have a compelling product that is episodic, and you have to deliver on something that people actually care to continue to consume. I mean, say whatever you want about the WWE, but even at their worst, they're giving you enough of something that you're still keeping an eye on what's going on over there.
That's correct. Now the key, because when people were saying this was a war or whatever, if you look at, all right, for the different catalysts throughout the history of the WWE and WWF before that, right, they hit with Bruno Sammartino, right? That was their first big hit. Then, in our lifetime, they hit with Hulk Hogan. Then they hit again with Austin and The Rock. Then they hit again with John Cena. And more recently, they've started to hit again with Roman Reigns. And AEW will have to find something like that. And look, when WCW was, which was legitimately taking it to the WWF, they hit with the NWO, right? So they're going to have, they got to find something like that is going to be a hit that will get people watching. Because the other thing is that, when you're hot, people don't pay attention as much to whatever your shortcomings are or whatever, right? So, Vince Sr.'s product had shortcomings when he had Bruno Sammartino, but Bruno Sammartino was such a big deal that nobody cared. during the height of Hulkamania, that product had shortcomings, but people didn't care because Hulk Hogan was such a big deal and such a captivating figure. During the Attitude Era, that product had shortcomings, but people were so dialed into The Rock and Steve Austin, same thing. Now with Cena, because of social media and all that stuff, they weren't as immune from from the nitpicking and all of that stuff. But after Cena was gone, the nitpicking did get worse. So now AEW, the only real run they had like that was when they first started, when people were just so excited about them being there that they were willing to look past stuff. But now we're in year 3, and now I mean you can just even on my Twitter timeline every Wednesday night, there are people who still watch regularly, but who are more apt to point out problems. So they have yet to find that kind of captivating figure that will get everybody to want to watch to the point where they, will look past the shortcomings. And they haven't found it yet. I don't think it's coming because, John Cena is not going there. No one they could sign that would deliver that type of instant attention is going to go there. John Cena is not going to go there. Brock Lesnar is not going to go there. We know Roman Reigns is not going to go there. No one else none of Sasha Banks is not going to go there. Right. I mean, nobody who could just be like, nobody who could actually get you to stop and say, oh, wow, that person went there. Because that's what happened with WCW, right? They got Hulk Hogan. Then they got Randy Savage. Then they got Rowdy Piper, and they got Diesel and, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, right? They got all of these people showed up there, which in turn, and it looked like, oh, wow, man, all these people are there now. I need to see what's going on over there. And the people that AEW pulled in that they were hoping would do that, ultimately, I mean, Chris Jericho was doing it for a little while at the beginning, but CM Punk has not done that. And John Moxley over the long term has not done that. I think he may have done a little bit at the beginning, but over the long haul, he has not done that. Daniel Bryant has not, over the long haul, Daniel Bryant has not done that. And I just don't think there's anybody who's willing. There's nobody they can get who will do that now. And look, they've signed everyone pretty much there is to sign from WWE who's been available. And none of those people have, caused such a stir that you would want to go see what's going on over there. Now, on the contrary, they did lose somebody like that, and his name is Cody Rhodes. And Cody going back to WWE now had the reverse effect. Now you get because now that's a sign that wait a minute, Cody Rhodes, who was an EVP, who was a founding member of the company, Cody Rhodes, who left WWE before it was a cool thing to do, he went back. What's that all about? Right? That's more of an attention. That's the attention grabbing kind of thing that they needed, or that they still need, that they haven't gotten. And instead, the attention grabbing thing was Cody going back to WWE. And not only that, but Cody going back to WWE and getting the full treatment from WWE and WWE fans that he'd always wanted. Right? I mean, you saw the WrestleMania entrance. That is what he's wanted his whole career. And he finally got that, not in AEW, but in the WWE. And that is basically like a big flag going up to people like MJF, to people like Wardlow or Hobbs or Jade, that, hey, you know what? yeah, you might want to look over here when the time comes. And I think, look, MJF is pretty much a done deal. We know as soon as he's free, we know where he's going. That's pretty much sealed at this point. And now, with Vince retiring, I still think the praise that Hunter is getting is still a little overcooked right now, I think. But at least from a perception standpoint, it looks more and more like a place you want to go to now again. And so AEW, I mean, their long-term survival is going to hinge on them landing somebody that makes you want to stop and see what's going on over there. That's their long-term survival is dependent on that. And because that's the nature of the wrestling business, right? That's not even an AEW or WWE kind of thing. You know, your company, your territory is only as good as having that person there that gets people to focus on it, right? And that goes back to, Jerry Lawler in Memphis and the Von Erichs in Texas, right? And the Freebirds, wherever they, the different places they showed up to work, right? And so their long-term survival is dependent on that, and they're going to have to find that or get that some kind of way.
Well said. Well said. Listen, Rob, as always, man, you bring the heat when you come on here, which I love. You don't shy away from it. You lean right in, but you're not going to say something that you're not confident in saying, which I do appreciate. It's refreshing. Why don't you let everybody know once again, best way that they can keep up with you? Because as this landscape continues to change, you're one of those people that if I were a betting man, I would say that Rob the Genius is going to end up emerging as one of the voices that people are going to be tapping into and paying a lot more attention to.
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at RBONNE1. And my website is robsagenius.com. And you can hear me on the Mindless Wrestling Podcast, where I'm part of the Chairshot Radio Network. Those are the easiest ways to find me. And if you want to hear me talk about things other than professional wrestling, I have my own podcast, the Rob the Genius Podcast. I talk about all types of things there. So those are the places you can find me. And, feel free to, shoot me a message, or what have you. And like I've always said, you know what, should you find any of the information I provided to be incorrect or whatever, I have no problem making corrections. Okay. I'm not one of these people who I don't die on the hill. Okay. If you got better information than what I'm giving you, and then I will gladly correct myself. It's not a problem.
If you are a content creator and you want a great program that provides studio quality sound, especially when you're doing interviews, then I encourage you to check out Zencastr. That's right, Zencastr. It is my absolute favorite program to record with. I encourage everyone to check it out, okay? Visit Zencastr.com for more information. Enjoy.
This is WWE Hall of Famer JBL, and you are listening to Duke Loves Rasslin.
Be kind to yourselves and be kind to others. Take it away, Tony Schiavone.
This is Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Rasslin.